On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1971. We're going to be taking a look at Fanny, and they're going to be performing Special Care. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So tonight's video is brought to us by Studio Hamburg. Martin over at Studio Hamburg has kindly allowed us access to this video and the videos that are hosted by Beat Club and Music Laden as well. And just to let you guys know, there's going to be a link to this video in the description below, so you can head over to the Beat Club channel if you want to after this. And Martin has uploaded individual performances by Fanny, so you can check out a lot of other songs and a lot of other performances by them over on the Beat Club channel. But let's get the ladies up on screen and we'll see how they get on.
Außer einigen oben ohne und Showbands, deren musikalischer Wert sehr umstritten ist, gibt es keine Mädchengruppen, außer Fanny. Sie spielen Special Care.
In the corner, staring at me. Do you think I'm blowing my cool? Playing the fool. You there in the window, staring at me. Do you think I'm trouble? Would you like to shoot me down? Down, down, down. Oh, oh. Now, special care has been taken to make you aware. You're forsaken if you don't have. They're gonna come burn your house down, down, down. Oh, oh. Better look out.
I'm just going to jump in here during this breakdown, and like I said, there's a link in the description below, so you guys can click on that to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But this performance and Fanny as a band, I think pretty much flew under the radar, or at least back in the early 70s, when they were playing this kind of music, having such attitude. And a video that I did recently where we were looking at Rick Derringer and also Edgar Winter was with him performing, and I mentioned about that being in 1973 and sounding more hard rock than rock, and hard rock was really used as a term and a description of a genre later on, probably towards the late 70s. But this is 1971, so this predates that performance that I was analysing. There's no weak element. These ladies were just as good as any other male counterpart that would have been on the scene at the same time. But here, to have a full band of women absolutely rocking it was so ahead of their time, and it might have played against them back in the early 70s, because I know that members of the band, and I did a video on Fanny previously, and unfortunately that did get blocked, but now we do have access to these videos thanks to Studio Hamburg. But on that initial video that I did that was blocked, June Millington, who here is on lead guitar, rhythm guitar and backing vocals as well, but she does sing lead vocals in other performances which you can check out. But June did comment on the video that I did previously, and I know that members of the band have commented about, in the early 70s, them being seen as more of a novelty rather than a serious band and a credible band. Due to bands like Fanny, and I say bands like Fanny, it wasn't as if in the early 70s there were loads of all-female bands who were just rocking out like this. So you could say that thanks to Fanny, the band, a lot of female artists in the future and female bands came to be because they were inspired by seeing this kind of performance and seeing just the fact that you can have an all-female band and you can rock out just as hard as the guys. But talking about being all-female in the band, but then having the ability, that's the other thing, that these ladies have obviously worked at their instruments, playing and singing at the same time, harmonizing with each other. And you can see across the band, we've got vocal ability in every single instrumental position. So it means that we can have harmony vocals going off the whole time. We can have a really strong harmony vocal that is almost like that crowd vocal behind the lead that Jean's singing here. It's important to mention as well that Jean is singing and playing at the same time, as are all of the ladies in the band here. With June on guitar, rhythm guitar, you can hear also lead lines going on. She plays her G chord and then goes into her fill shapes in F and C. So she's playing lead lines, and we do get into some lead guitar later on. So this is another thing, that they haven't just worked at their instruments in order to strum out a few chords and maybe just hold a few chords, as we see Nikki here going into that solo section on organ and transitioning between piano and organ and back to piano. They've got the ability to hold down a solo themselves instrumentally, which is on a totally different level to just learning the basics and trying to get a little bit of rhythm down. Getting into playing the instrument as a lead instrument takes a hell of a lot of work, and these ladies are obviously accomplished players on each of those instruments. I just want to point out a few things about the guitar, the lead going on in the background, the fills that we can hear coming in from June, but also the way that we transition the key from D to G, because that's where the ladies perform this, and they've made that change because Buffalo Springfield originally was in D, and it's written by Stephen Stills, by the way, but having it in that original key of D obviously wouldn't work because we're talking about female vocalists here, so their ranges are going to vary from that original, so they've just transposed it to G, but they've started in D with a little rundown. So musically, it's really clever what they've done because it flows into the new key. So demonstrating it, if you listen out in the background, it is hard to make it out, but we have this and into the F, and we go to the G, back down to the F, and we get this a little lead line that comes in from June. So it means that when we go back to the G, it now sounds like it's supposed to be in that key, but it's really clever the way that they've started in the D, because then people will recognize it, that that's where the original song is. 2, 3, 4. And then we're back into the G. Just demonstrating the chords, if you want to play along with this, even though the chords are more prevalent on keys here, and you'll hear the lead going on in the background from June, we have our G, and interestingly, there's a little hop down. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're coming in before one of the next bar. So effectively, it's like 4 and. So slowing it down, we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Kind of like that. So it sounds like a little jump. It's going to make it sound like it's got more energy because you're not expecting it. You're expecting it to change on 1 rather than 4 and. So it does take you by surprise, and that's the whole point of it. So I really like that addition of moving down a little bit earlier. Just have a quick play through those chords. It means we're going G, F, C, G again, F, C, G, F, might be a jump down to that simplified B flat or A sharp. You can also call it that, it's the same chord. But this movement up, we're pretty much hearing from the piano there, because Jean is going to be playing the, it sounds like she's playing the C, and she's just moving up a little bit with her shape. Kind of like that, adding in something a little bit different so that it pops out when compared with the keys just playing the chords. So that's most of the rhythm going on, and the fill shapes. Let's get into those, because when we've got that first chord, we've got this shape that we slide up into, which is in G, our major pentatonic. When we go down to the F, that's why we have that little shift up, which is going to be to our F on that A string. So we've got this like that, and we go back down to, and we get a nice fill shape played over the top of the C chord. So it means we've got this. And she's just throwing in a little fill like that. So on that lead guitar, like I said, Jean is just putting together fill shapes and notes from the chords as those chords are progressing underneath. So it's really cool to listen out for those. And just to explain that final fill shape, like I said, we start in that G shape, we then go up to the F on that A string, and then when we get over to the C, when you're playing a C major chord, your major pentatonic shape 1 is just 2 frets above that. So it means that if you bar that with your first finger, you can, you'll get all of your notes there. And you can start to play around with those, but playing them in the manner that we have here, applying them as fills, means that you're playing more than one string at any one time in order to fill the sound. So you've got that, like that, kind of like that. So you can have a little play around with that, but that's how Jean's using the shapes here in terms of playing that lead and then throwing a little line kind of like that. And you've got lots of options that you can throw in there. Obviously, you don't want to get too involved with it and take too much attention to your guitar playing these lead lines and lead fills, because you still want that vocal to stick out on top of everything. So it's probably best just to keep it simple in exactly the way that June is doing here. But we'll watch the performance until the end now, and then we'll jump into the little bit of lead that we get from June as well.
Special care.
there we have it. What I love about this performance is the fact that they are not holding back. They're all just going for it. And like I said, on that piano when we had the solo, Nikki, and it's Nikki Barclay, by the way, on organ and piano here. When she has those solo sections towards the end as well, when she transitions back to the piano, she's just hammering those keys. And it just adds to the energy of the performance. They're all just going for it here because they've got the ability to do it. And having that confidence, having that subconscious ability to put on a show but also perform on the instrument as well. Just to mention as well that we've got Alistair Burr on drums here, and mentioning about drums and the bass and the fact that this is so tight as a performance. At the beginning of the song you'll see that we do have about a bar's worth of silence where there's no audible counting or reference point for the ladies to then come back in on time, but they are absolutely spot on after that silence. So they are so tight as a unit, and you just have to listen to this performance in order to appreciate that, because it is faultless the whole way through. And we've got so much going on. Like I said, we've got lead guitar, we've got lead guitar fills, we've got rhythm guitar, we've got bass lines that if you listen to Jean's bass, she's also playing that. She's playing the bass with those major fill shapes of G and F and C, so she's not just playing straightforward root notes and fifths here. We are going to be jumping into the lead briefly just to see what Jean gets up to during that section, but I also want to throw in there before we do about the lead vocal and the fact that with Jean here and Nikki with those backing vocals, we get a rasp to that lead vocal which pushes it into that hard rock kind of sound, even though at this time hard rock didn't really exist. It's just a very early example of it, and it gives it so much more attitude to have that rasp in the lead vocal. But let's jump into the video and just listen to Jean's lead guitar. Okay, so we've got this little... Sounds like we've just got a few little hammer-ons and pull-offs in there and we have quite a long bend here. Oh. And moving our way all the way down to our minor pentatonic shape in G. This is where you're going to be playing your bar chord at the bottom there that I demonstrated at the beginning of the video for the rhythm. But she's now jumping down into this shape, having started in the extended shape, kind of like that. So now we have that big jump down to that third fret. And so we've got these little pull-offs to the open G. And then the bend up again, minor pentatonic shape 1 here. Unison bends. Kind of like that again, barring that first finger on the 3rd fret technique-wise. That's what you want to be looking for here. And then bending up that 2nd or 3rd finger, whichever's most comfortable for you. Going back to that 3rd fret, 1st finger. Little delayed hammer on there. Love that technique, and it's one of those that you can start to implement in your own playing in order to get your notes to sound a little bit more interesting rather than going and just playing everything straight, just going picking and then hammering on. Gives it a totally different sound to just playing notes straight, but that's what June's doing here, implementing that technique and just gives it that extra cool edge. And then we had this a little slide down. It looked like we couldn't hear it very clearly, but then we slide back up again. And now, and this might be 3rd finger, little finger, to then set us up for a little rundown. Sounded like blues scale. Oh, there's... We had a little run up when we're down on the first fret, third fret, slide up. It's kind of like that. So you'll have to organize your fingers in order to play those A and D string after each other. Kind of like that. Yeah, and there's that. Again, a bend there. And you might want to try and hold those two together to get yourself into that little finger blues scale pull-offs. Kind of like that. So in that kind of ballpark. And then again, just fretting on that 6th fret with the 3rd finger. I mean, if I was playing this, I would probably use that 2nd finger for that. And the... like that, rather than stretch over with the 3rd and little finger. But it might be better for you, depending again on the size of your hands, what you prefer. But for me, yeah, it's gonna... would be a little bit better there. But you can do it... you can do it down there as well. It might be the case that when we play that, we actually go straight into that rundown from the bend. Kind of like that. And then we have a little run at the end. So we're ending on that G. And we have... so it'll be that... Interestingly, at the end there, we have our... letting it down, and then we have a little bend up, which is leading us back into the chorus, and we get a little bit of a vocal lead in from Jean. So it means that Jean is ascending with her vocal, and we're ascending with the bend from June, and it's just all resolving really nicely back into the G. So it's great that we get that matching of the vocal line that's ascending and also the lead guitar line. Just makes it so much more dramatic. But a fantastic performance here from whichever way you look at it. And I think the video that I originally did on Fanny has been unblocked by Studio Hamburg, so you guys can check that out, where I get into a little bit of the background of the band and the story. And I think, unfortunately, being signed to a major label, as these ladies were, it's almost accepted or expected that you as a band will look how the label want you to look and sound how the label want you to sound. But these ladies weren't into that. They had their own sound and they wanted to perform that way and wanted to look how they wanted to look. So I think nowadays, this is why there's so many independent bands and independent labels. People realize that art is all about allowing the artist to express themselves however they see fit and however they want to. And I think, unfortunately, back in the early 70s, I think a lot of people would argue still in the music industry to this day, it's still not all about the artist. But anyway, more so in the early 70s, they didn't have the option of going to independent labels or staying independent themselves and setting up a website. And because the internet didn't exist, but setting up a website and being able to sell their music through their website and control their publishing, all those kinds of things. So they really went down the route that they had to go down. But unfortunately, things were stacked against them because of the limitations that were placed upon their sound and their image and potentially their success in the music industry as well. But it's great that we can now have a look at performances like this thanks to Studio Hamburg, where we can really get a handle on their level of ability and where they were, and the fact that we're talking 1971 here. So talk about ahead of the curve and ahead of the times, playing this kind of what would be described as hard rock, being an all-female band, but really trailblazing the sound. Anyway, thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep their suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!